Yo, what's up everyone? My name's Eric and welcome to our video on the topic of frame rates. In this video, we'll be discussing when to shoot your car content in 24 frames per second versus 60 frames per second. And by the way guys, I'm testing out this new Rode Go mic that I purchased. It's a wireless Rode mic. Let me know what you guys think of the sound quality. Comment down below. So I want to keep this video super simple. So let's start off with 24 frames per second. You should shoot in 24 frames per second when you want your footage in real time. Some examples of when you would want to shoot in real time are when shooting rollers, when shooting flybys, or anytime you plan to not slow down your footage. So you're probably thinking why 24 frames per second? Well, this is because 24 frames per second has a similar motion to the human eye. So naturally, our eyes are used to seeing motion blur. For example, if you use 60 frames per second to shoot a subject in motion, the footage would look too smooth and it wouldn't have that natural motion blur that your eyes would get, or that motion blur that you would get from shooting in 24 frames per second. So in my opinion, I think everyone should shoot in 24 frames per second whenever you're shooting a subject that is moving, so you get that natural motion blur. And that's extremely important because you don't want that footage to look smooth, because then it's going to look unnatural and it's not going to look real. So always use 24 frames per second when your subject is in motion. Just keep that in mind. So now that we talked about when to shoot in 24 frames per second, let's now talk about when to shoot in 60 frames per second. So in my opinion, you should shoot 60 frames per second or higher when you plan to slow down your footage in post. So some examples for when you would want to shoot in 60 frames per second are when shooting for B-roll clips, such as wide angle shots, mid angle shots, or detailed shots. So why 60 frames per second for B-roll clips? Well, this is because 60 frames per second gives you the ability to slow down your footage by 40% when editing. This allows you to achieve much more smoother and clean footage, as well as gives you more flexibility because you now have a longer clip to play with. So just remember, anytime you want to slow down your footage, always use 60 frames per second or any frame rate that is higher. And here's an extra tip to add to all of this. You always want to follow the 180-degree shutter rule. This rule means that your shutter speed should always be doubled your frame rate. For example, if you're shooting in 24 frames per second, your shutter speed should be 1/45 or 1/50. If you're shooting in 60 frames per second, your shutter speed should be 1/120 or anything close to that. And trust me, I know this rule could be super simple to forget, but it's extremely important that you're always aware that your shutter speed is doubled your frame rate. I know I've forgotten so many times and it renders those clips completely useless. I can't use them because they just look really shitty. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I didn't want to make it too long and too complicated. It's very short and simple and straight to the point. Yeah man, leave your comments down below on how I can improve on these videos. I would really appreciate that. All the feedback is much needed so I can get better at making these videos. But yeah guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Peace out.